Fashion, food, film, and music, some of our greatest loves in life. Welcome to Seems to Me with Cibeline Sariano and Steve Ricardo.
Hello.
Hey, hey. What is up?
So
Tell me about you.
So apparently you're a little bit tired because what have you been doing all week?
Oh, man. I have been opening up an art gallery, and I have never been an art gallerist in my life.
Art gallerist? I didn't even know that was a term. I like that. Art gallerist.
A gallerist. That's what they call people who own art galleries. So Cibeline, the art gallery, is now open.
Yes, it is.
At 460C Harrison Avenue in the heart of the SoWa Art District. And holy cow, I'm an art gallerist.
That is quite the gallery, too, if I might say so myself.
You.
I was there at the matinee of the opening. It was fantastic.
So
Jean Seriano's art. It was called Crowd Me, I'm Alone, right?
Crowd Me, I'm Alone
Loved
is the starting off exhibit for representing my father as an artist, contemporary abstract artist. He's incredible. He's been painting since the 60s straight through to 2019. And we have an incredible display of his artwork up at my new art gallery.
I checked it all out, too. It was a lot of fun hanging out.
We had a great time.
Everyone, we had to keep it limited with the amount of people that were in there, but it was fun. And we had the Violent Cat in the matinee playing violin. She was unbelievable.
Incredible.
She played
such a talent.
Beatles, Zeppelin. Like, she could play anything. She had this hollow body Yamaha violin, and she was blowing my mind.
She's really outstanding, really talented young woman. And what was the Led Zeppelin song that she played that I love?
Over the Hills and Far Away. I don't remember. She played a lot. She played some cool Beatles songs too.
Yeah.
And people from other galleries were coming in because they were like, "Who's that?" You know.
So here's the thing that totally surprises me. Everybody thinks it is so unusual to have live music in an art gallery, and I'm like, this is what I'm all about. I'm all about having really cool events in my art gallery. I love events. I love hosting. I'm the hostess with the mostest. And
yes, you are.
To me, it's about having live music. So we had Violin Cat in the morning and the matinee, as you say, and we had Mark Femino in the evening. He played straight for 4 hours,
wow.
Steve. 4 hours. He told me his hand was like totally cramped at the end of the night. His new album is Femi La Bouche.
We're using his song as our intro song.
We are.
Harborside.
The Harborside, which is...
Harborside.
I believe it is, right? The Harborside. It's a ode to all the nights he played at the Harborside in Boston. And his album is Femi La Bouche, and it's a really great, incredible work of art.
Well, I think you did a fantastic job putting the whole thing together. You had the eclectic freelance violinist, as she calls herself, and then you had the funky Mark Femino at the nighttime show.
Yeah, he played acoustic finger picking. He played me Prince, and he just played some of my great, my favorite artists as well. So it was really special. A special day, weekend. I felt the love. I had so much support come out. My Syracuse girls. I went to Syracuse University.
I knew we were going to talk about Syracuse.
I bleed orange, dude. We have to talk about Syracuse.
Your father was really cool, too. You could tell he's an old school. He used to hang out with Warhol, right?
Warhol, wow. Herring.
That is
all
cool.
Those guys. He was rolling in the 60s, 70s, 80s in Manhattan in the art scene.
And he was dressed
deal.
He was dressed very stylishly. Did his daughter have anything to do with that?
Well, I had a whole nother outfit he was supposed to wear, and he didn't show up in it. So I had to send my mother to the hotel to change him. But that was his choice. Absolutely. He had like a rainbow kind of sweater on.
And he was smiling the whole time. I got some photos with him.
My father has a zest for life that is infectious, and his laugh is also just, super dynamic and one of a kind. He's one of a kind. We've had our ups and downs in life, but
We all do.
it was really such a pleasure to be able to do this for my father and for, the breadth of work, to showcase the breadth of work he's done. So I'm honored to be able to do it.
And that space is fantastic.
Thank
I've
you.
never been over there. It's in the south end of Boston. Very artsy over there.
Bunch of galleries
Where
and
is
working
that?
artists.
Give me the geography on
Yes,
that, or give the
so-
audience, because I'm not really.
There are two main buildings that represent the SoWa Art District: 450 Harrison and 460 Harrison. 450 is predominantly, well, from my understanding, it's all working artists. In order to have a studio or a space in that building, you have to be actually a working artist that's painting and representing yourself. Then there is a separation of a little walkway called Thayer Street.
Oh yeah, it used to be the famous rock lofts. Used to be down there in the
No
old
way.
day. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
The
know
Thayer
that.
Street lofts were famous for the underground Boston rock scene back in the 90s,
Whoa.
80s, 90s. Yeah.
Oh my God, I just got the chills. That's awesome.
Yeah, you're
I
in a
didn't know
great
that.
neighborhood. I never really
Um,
spent much time over there, but I really
It's
liked it.
changed a lot. Like it's evolved. It's evolved. Good, bad, or ugly, depending on which way you look at it. Pine Street Inn is still right there. There's still a little, little this, little that walking around, but it's gentrified and it's, huge, amazing lofts and
You
apartments that
scored.
are going up. I
You
know.
scored
I
big
feel really
time.
lucky. Feel really lucky to have. I mean, the only reason why space was even available was because of COVID, and also there had been a water main break that cleared out a couple people
Really?
out of the building. Unfortunately for them, but fortunately for
Fortunately
me,
for you.
I was able to land a
I
1,500
think the
square
same
foot
thing
art
happened
gallery.
in the building we're in, actually. We're down at New Alliance in Somerville. The same thing, I think, happened here. They had a flood down here. That's how you get buildings. You wait till they flood out, and then you move in.
Right. There you go. Right.
So by the time
Just a
people
natural
hear,
disaster.
by the time people hear this, it's going to be well after Easter. But yesterday was Easter. Did you have a good Easter?
Well, I guess I had a quiet Easter. I took a nap, which I never do, but
And you
I
felt
needed
crappy
it.
afterwards.
Yes.
Probably that's what happens to me when I take a nap.
Oh, I was so lethargic. But I have a little 8.5-year-old daughter named Josie.
Josie.
And she loves all holidays. And we did a little Easter egg hunt and
Nice.
Easter basket. But I didn't get to have my, standard usual Easter dinner, which is kind of always been a big deal.
Neither
but
did I.
You didn't. What were
Well,
you supposed
I
to do?
think as you know, I recently was put on a gluten-free diet.
Yes, you have.
So I've had gluten-free pizza like about 5 times in the last 2 weeks because I don't know what to eat. It's really frustrating.
And are you buying frozen gluten-free
Yeah.
pizza?
Is
Okay,
that bad?
we can talk about. No. I mean, listen, I'm
brown
gluten-free.
rice, right?
It's brown rice or cauliflower, depending on, and sometimes corn flour. What people have to really worry about and watch out is some of the biggest allergies that you can be affected by is wheat,
Yeah,
corn,
I can't eat wheat
but
anymore.
corn. So here's the deal. So corn is in a lot of the things that are gluten-free now. I actually have an issue with corn as well. So I'm gluten-free because of the wheat, and I also have to watch out for corn. So I'm excited to kind of share with you all my experience in the world.
Dr. Seriano.
I know. Apparently, I'm Dr. Gluten-free Seriano here.
It's funny that we're both on a gluten-free diet. It's the
Welcome
gluten-free
to the-
podcast.
Yeah. Welcome to old age.
This is new for me, though. It's only been 3 weeks. I also quit drinking, and I was like averaging a bottle of red wine a day since the pandemic started, like a lot of people, from what I understand. But I feel pretty good. I mean, I feel like it's working.
Hey, listen, I mean, whatever works. I kind of went the opposite direction. I decided I was damned if I was going to gain the COVID-19, as everybody calls it. And I focused on exercise. I did a lot of virtual workouts with my gym, and
Good for you.
I didn't really drink. We had one Zoom get together with my high school friends, and I was like, I'm in the mood for a rum and Coke. I'm gonna get a rum and hold on, girls. I'm going to make myself a rum and Coke. Next thing I knew, and I was on an empty stomach. Next thing I know, I had 5 rum and Cokes. I kid you not.
5?
Yes.
That would do
4
some
to 5.
serious damage to
It was
me.
awful. It was awful. I was hugging the porcelain god. No joke.
Oh, no.
I'm
I
embarrassed.
haven't been there in a while.
Yeah, it was bad. My girlfriends, I had to actually say, hold on, I'm coming back. And they were like, Sib. I could hear them in the other room. Are you okay, Sib? I'm like, oh, God.
I thought no one was allowed to call you
they're allowed
Sib.
to call me Sib, but not anybody else.
I'm not calling you that.
No. They're my high school friends.
So you mentioned a porcelain experience, and this is a good segue because we're going to talk about your restaurant that you love that has the great tequila drinks. And my last porcelain experience was from tequila. It was many years ago.
Interesting. Okay, what kind of tequila? That's
I don't know the difference between one or the other. I was at a Mexican restaurant. It happened actually not too far from where we are now in Cambridge.
All right, let's talk about tequilas then, because there is a vast difference between tequilas, and I am a tequila girl.
If you drink that Sammy Hagar tequila,
the Cabo Wabo, it's okay. It's all right. It's not the best. My personal favorite is a tequila called Siete Leguas.
Ooh.
And it is 7 languages. That's translated to 7 languages. It's got a cow on the front with a big 7, which is my lucky number. It is very oaky, Steve. Oaky tequila is the way to go. So they barrel it in oak barrel, or
really?
whatever
wow.
that's
an
called.
Education this is.
Yeah, so I learned. I mean, many moons ago, I started. We were in San Diego and we went to a tequila bar, and I wanted to know.
You went to Tijuana, right across the border. That's what I used to do when I was in San Diego.
I did back in the day when I probably shouldn't have gone. But yeah,
did you live in California too?
I did.
Oh, so I lived in L.A. for a long time. Where did you live?
We were in Santa Monica on Arizona.
Oh, it's nice over there.
Arizona.
That's where Whitey Bulger was hanging out.
I know. I swear to you, I saw him one day.
I think I did in the sports bar. There was a Boston sports bar in Santa Monica that I went to when I lived out there in 2006.
Okay.
And there were all these old dudes from Boston there. Whitey was probably hanging out there.
I was there in 96. I moved out there
I was there in 96
college.
too, actually.
I love California.
Yeah,
I'm a California girl.
Me
for
too.
Sure. What I'm doing here in Boston, come
same,
on now.
Same.
I'm sorry, Bostonians, but I'm a warm weather summer girl.
I'm sorry.
Let's go back to tequila because I wanted to talk about my favorite. I have several favorite restaurants here in Boston, but my absolute favorite restaurant in Boston is in the South End. So I want to plug the South End, and it's Toro, one of Ken Oranger's restaurants. He's opened a number of them now. But, man, it is a tapas Spanish restaurant. It's sexy. It's small. You can never get a table in there. I love sitting at the bar there. And I discovered a drink there called La Verdad y Amor. And it's a hibiscus-infused tequila.
Ooh.
And they do a ginger
a healthy
sugar
tequila?
rim.
What sugar rim?
A ginger sugar rim. So it's got a spice to it.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, once you drink one of these, you can't stop drinking them, unfortunately. So, hangovers do catch up to you on that one. But, and the food there is phenomenal. They have these shrimp. It's like a garlic shrimp, but it's got a beautiful orange color to it. Really phenomenal food. Just tapas. They have paella. You name it. It's by far for me, it's one of my favorite experiences in Boston to go sit at the bar there.
I got to check that place out.
Have
they been okay during the pandemic?
Well, I have tried to go a couple times, and because they're doing such a limited seating, I haven't been able to get in. So maybe if this is a plug for them, they'll invite us to come in and
want some
introduce
shrimp.
you to the food.
That's part of a gluten-free diet, right?
Oh, there's just so much more on the menu. Potatoes bravas. I mean, you name it. A tortilla. The tortilla español. It's like egg, potato, and a few other ingredients, but it's just a tortilla. It's delightful.
You're like
So
me.
that's
You get all orgasmic when you talk about food. I'm the
Abs-
same way.
oh,
I
yeah.
love food.
That's why we're doing this. Food,
Yes.
fashion, film, music. Those are the
Yeah.
4 things that make me orgasmic.
So I made you go and watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for a second time because I've seen it 3 times. You have some very interesting observations about this amazing Quentin Tarantino 2019 film. You were talking about the colors.
Yeah, so I think for me, when I watch a movie, the first thing that grabs me is the color in the film and the cinematography and the music, so it's those 3 things that are really just what jump out. And I'm such a visual person, right? One of the things I noticed right away the first time I saw it, and one of the things I noticed right away the second time I saw it, was the usage of his color. And right away I'm like, oh my God, it's the yellow. It's the yellow that I've been drawn to this whole year. It's like this kind of ochre yellow, sunshine yellow, cadmium yellow. And it's so vibrant in the film. And then it's a juxtaposition to the red as well, like that beautiful, deep, bright. It's deep and yet bright at the same time. I can talk color for days, but
I can tell.
I don't
I'm
know.
gonna have to go back for a 4th time and check out the colors.
You are. I'm telling you, there's a scene where Al Pacino's sitting there at the restaurant.
Musso and Frank's in Hollywood.
Exactly, talking to Leonardo DiCaprio's character,
Rick Dalton.
Thank you. And he's got this red pocket square, and right behind him is this woman wearing a red jacket, and it's all I could see when they're like doing that scene. Yeah. But then Pacino the cast in this film.
Oh my God, fantastic!
Right?
Brad Pitt got the Oscar out of all of them. But Margot Robbie playing Sharon Tate. Oh, fantastic!
She is gorgeous. Both of them. They could park their boots under my bed, and I wouldn't turn
Brad
them away.
Pitt and Margot.
Yeah,
Robbie?
Why not?
That would be a fun night.
Oh my God!
I would just enjoy watching.
Oh God. Anyway, Brad Pitt. So there's so many scenes where he's wearing the yellow. He's got a yellow Hawaiian shirt on at one point. He's got a yellow T-shirt on at one point. Kurt Russell is like telling him how much he hates
in the
him.
Movie. Everyone's in that
and
film.
then wait, his trailer is also all yellow. And then Margot walks into the awesome party at that pool party, dance party scene, and she's got the most phenomenal
at the Playboy Mansion.
Exactly, yeah. Right. That's right. It was the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah, she was dancing with Michelle Phillips and Mama Cass Elliott. Boy, I'm telling you, Tarantino's imagination is just like it seems so real. If only the ending was real, right?
Right, exactly, man. I mean, he covers so much in the movie too. You've got the downward spiral of Leonardo DiCaprio's, having a midlife crisis in his career, right? Then you've got the Sharon Tate story. Then you've got the Brad Pitt story and his whole scene with the whole hippie. What was that supposed? Was that the Manson crew?
Yeah, that was the whole Manson family.
Okay.
Apparently Brad Pitt's character, and I can't remember his name. Cliff killed his wife, apparently. They kept, hinting that he did. And they only showed him possibly killing his wife, which is funny because Quentin Tarantino likes to show the violence. There were some very violent scenes that I had to turn away from.
Mm-hmm. Even when Brad Pitt's beating the crap out of that kid
that was
his tire.
Whoa.
Oof, that was rough.
One of the Manson family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was hard to watch. And the ending, well, I'm sorry if someone has not seen this film because we're probably ruining it for them right now. Should I talk about the soundtrack a little bit?
Yes, please.
I heard on an interview that Quentin Tarantino has been known to make mixtapes up to like 6 months before making a movie in order to define the musical atmosphere of the film, which this one is depicted in 1969.
Mm-hmm.
He really nailed it in Jackie Brown when he came up with Bobby Womack and the Delphonics, and he had that great soul, like 60s, 70s soul soundtrack. In this one, he did the same thing. And I loved it when Margot Robbie's character, Sharon Tate, is listening to Paul Revere and the Raiders. And then I looked at the soundtrack. There's like 4 Paul Revere and the Raiders songs in the film.
That's what was speaking to him, huh?
Yeah, and he also included Rambling Man by the Bob Seger System, Hush by Deep Purple, which was their first real hit, and a Jose Feliciano version of California Dreaming. So he drove around in his car for like 6 months with his mixtape. He doesn't listen to streaming
So
station.
he's like old school
He's very
mixtape,
old school.
just like we are, right?
And apparently he's got an enormous record collection. I mean, what is there not to like
Clearly
about
he loves
Quentin
music.
Tarantino?
I mean, the soundtrack of Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, I mean, some of the best soundtracks there is, right? I mean, there are.
And Jackie Brown, like
Right.
I mentioned. I
Right.
mean, yeah, the music was prevalent. It's always prevalent in his films.
I caught the one scene where he's playing Mrs. Robinson.
Oh, yes.
What's your take on that?
Well, I love the song. I've always
right?
loved the song.
mean-
I even like when the Lemonheads did a cover of the song, and that ended up in
yeah.
a few films.
Yeah,
you know?
love that.
He's really knows his music.
But in that moment when he's playing Mrs. Robinson, to me, it's a take on what Mrs. Robinson was all about, right? Like the older woman, the younger man, but it's a flip-flop.
Yes.
So he's playing with that. And it's just a little teeny clip of it. It's like barely even it's a quarter of the song, but I caught it because I was like, oh, he's making that reference to, Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski.
Yes.
And that marriage lasted about a year from what I read.
Well,
maybe a year or two.
It ended because of her death, basically.
But he was already
Well,
doing
he was
some
probably
shady stuff.
When
was
wasn't
already
he
going
doing
down.
shady things? When he made Rosemary's Baby, he was shady. I don't know, Polanski. That's a whole nother.
Yeah,
we could go down that
conversation.
road sometime, but
I'd have to do a little more research.
I don't
on
know
him.
if we want to go down that road.
Well,
because-
so there's a couple of things that I noticed about the film. First of all, in the very first scene with Rick Dalton, he looks like James Dean to me. I mean, he really is he's representing James Dean in that scene and that look.
James Dean meets Steve McQueen.
Right. Right, absolutely.
I love Steve McQueen, by the way.
And I love James Dean. I mean, I had posters of James Dean and Marilyn Monroe on my bedroom wall in high
I know
school.
you love Marilyn Monroe.
Yes, my muse. And I think Margot Robbie.
She was fabulous.
Which one?
Margot Robbie.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
just-
are we talking about Marilyn or Margot?
The way she dressed and everything, the way
there's that one outfit where she comes out of the door and they're on their way to the mansion, to the Playboy mansion, and she's got on a floor-length snakeskin jacket, like leather jacket, and they get in that car. First of all, can we talk about the vintage cars in the movie? Like, I'm a big vintage car
I love
girl.
how we pay attention to different things in the film.
Oh, yeah.
The cars were great. The Cadillac was what they drove around in, right?
Oh, no.
Brad
you mean
Pitt
Brad
drove
Pitt.
him around in the Cadillac. But Brad Pitt had
that
a
a
little
Cadillac?
sports car.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
loved his little, loud sports car. But then also Roman Polanski
He had a
and
sports
Sharon
car,
Tate,
too.
and they're, driving around in this. And just the filming of that when they're going down the Hollywood Hills and...
Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Laurel Canyon.
Quentin Tarantino is...
Yeah.
He is... So there's one scene where they refer to the guy as the Heavy. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to look... Should I look it up or should I ask Steve what the Heavy means?
Oh,
so
I don't
he's
even know what
referring
scene
to,
you're talking about.
Well, when he's talking about the demise of his character and how he's going to be starting to play the Heavy. And I guess the Heavy was like a role that was like the has-been.
Oh, he ended up playing a bad guy when he met that young actress.
Yes.
That's my favorite scene when she goes, "That was the best acting I've ever seen in my life." I love that girl. The young, I don't know her name or
And
anything.
she was 8 years old,
Yeah,
supposedly.
And Dalton was
So-
like really depressed at that time because he screwed up that scene, and then he went into his trailer and destroyed his trailer.
He shows up like hung over from all get
Yeah.
out, and
he
just
partied hard.
Yeah, like you can tell he's just like wallowing in his own misery about his career, and then he meets her, and she kind of changes
That was a turning point for him.
Yeah.
But then he
I
had
love
to go
that.
and do the spaghetti westerns in Italy. But he ended up coming home with a beautiful wife.
I was gonna say that wasn't so shabby.
He did pretty good.
Right?
He did
I'd like
good.
to go shoot some westerns in Italy.
The way Tarantino invented an actor, and there's even a Wikipedia page for Rick Dalton now because a lot of people thought there was really a Rick Dalton.
Right. I mean, Mr. Pink, Mr. White. I mean, all those
He
guys.
does that in all his films.
I mean, what's Uma Thurman's character's name in Pulp Fiction? I mean, they're iconic.
He does
They're
a lot
iconic.
of research about things that actually don't make it in the film, so that he actually creates a whole character that you believe exists.
And he has so many layers to these films. So many layers. I mean, you caught the swastika stuff, right? And all the Nazi stuff. I mean, there's that scene
with
where
the
he
gun.
opens it up. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you noticed this, but he opens up the curtains, the red curtains.
Yeah.
And he looks down and he's looking at the Nazis through the fence, through the little, I don't know, fence on the balcony. And all you see are swastikas in the fence, in the little balcony. But then I actually rewound. I mean, I went back several times to see when they shoot up and they show you the balcony up, you don't see swastikas, but you see it when you look down into that scene.
I am going to have to watch this film for a fourth time, but that's not unusual for me. You know, I've seen two films 25 times each. You'd never guess, so I'll tell you. Almost Famous.
Oh,
I've watched the director's cut of that 25
I'd watch
times.
that
And then
again.
Gus Van Zant's brilliant Drugstore Cowboy with Matt Dillon. I've watched that.
And we're
going to
cover both of those on this podcast.
Two of my
for
favorite
sure.
films ever.
Yeah, me
and then
too.
after that, it's a bunch of Pacino films, Dog Day Afternoon, Serpico, Godfather, you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So there's another part where Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate are on their way home, and they're waiting at their gate to get in. Rick Dalton and Cliff are in the car.
Yes, I know the
and
scene.
Rick's like, "Oh my God, that's her! You know, that's him." He like changes.
He wasn't
his
really
attitude.
paying attention to Sharon Tate. He was more
right. You're right.
just
Polanski.
enthralled by the fact that he lived next door to Roman
Right.
Polanski, and he's like this actor who's on his way down, and Polanski's on his way up, and he's living in the mansion
he's
next
driving
door.
Up. Yeah, he's driving up the hill. But there's a commercial playing on the radio in this scene, and I
you're
rewound
good.
it several times to listen to it. It's a commercial for cologne. Remember how I wanted to talk about cologne? So it's a commercial for cologne, and it says there's only 4 scents that matter in this world. Men's cologne, something like that. And I was like, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know what are the 4 scents that only matter. But I have always said that a man in cologne is
I'm getting
essential.
0 points right now because I never wear cologne.
It's, I mean, listen,
Do I need
guys,
to wear Old Spice for the next episode of our show?
Anything's better than nothing. Old Spice works.
Seems to me, sponsored by Old Spice.
Oh, God. Or Aqua Velva.
Oh, my
No,
God.
actually, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Oh,
But,
it's horrible. What do you mean?
I always appreciated that one. Aramis.
I use
some of
the
old
mango butter from the Body Shop. That's what I like, you know,
Okay,
exploring
all
my
right.
feminine
Yeah, I was
side
gonna
here.
say,
you know?
that's a little feminine, but that's okay. Well, Tom Ford, to me, does the best job of a unisex product. He does cologne that he feels that men can wear his cologne perfume and women can wear the cologne and the perfume. And I actually
Really?
used
Tom Ford.
Tom Ford, yeah, the man that, basically brought Gucci to another level in these last,
This is something I know nothing
30 some
about,
odd
and that's
years.
why you're the queen of fashion.
Yeah,
We
I'd like to
never
think
gave
so.
we were supposed to do our backgrounds for our audience so they would know who we were when
All
we
right.
started. And here we are deep into it, and we
Well, let's
didn't.
talk
Well,
about
why
our-
don't we talk about your famous background?
So ever since I was about 7 years old, I wanted to be a fashion designer. Both my parents are artists. Both of them met in New York City doing printmaking in Manhattan. I was born in Manhattan.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a really unique background. I went to a very small private school that was called Newark Center for Creative Learning. It was run by a bunch of hippies. I was there from kindergarten through 8th grade.
That sounds awesome.
I am who I am because of that school, for sure, because there was a lot of stuff going on between my parents at that time, and that was my family. I got to learn how to, do pottery making and acting and singing and playing music and art and you name it. So, and then I went to Syracuse University, and after that,
And you weren't a journalism major.
I was not.
It seems like everyone I've ever met from Syracuse was a journalism major.
For sure.
Or they played for Jim Boheim or whatever his name is.
Boeheim, yeah,
Boeheim. Sorry, I
Boeheim.
knew I would screw that up.
and lacrosse, the Gates brothers. I mean, we were, there was I chose Syracuse over an art school because
What was your major?
I was a fashion design
Oh,
major.
duh.
Yeah, fashion, and I studied French and business. But, I made a big decision at that point in my life because I wanted the college experience. I wanted the college education. And, most of the fashion schools are 2-year programs. I mean, FIT and Parsons and all those guys, you're not meeting people and doing the Greek system or, going to a dorm or maybe a dorm, yes, of course, but you don't have a quad and a campus. Where did you go to college?
I went to Framingham State
Okay.
University right here in Massachusetts. Well, I actually went to Cibeline Community College for 2 years. I was not a good student. I went to Framingham because I knew I could get on their radio station there.
Oh, okay.
Because trying to go to Emerson or BU, I didn't have the grades, and I never would have. Well, I probably would have been able to weasel my way into the radio station. But at Framingham State, at WDJM, I became the music director because I
Very
knew
cool.
I would come. Because I've always been like hardcore with music.
And was that something that you'd say you also were born with? I mean, just that love of music?
When I was young, I was watching the Monkees and the Banana
Sure.
Splits and the Partridge Family. That's where I got my music. And then when I heard Penny Lane, the single by the Beatles with Strawberry Fields Forever, the flip side, that's when I became really interested in like the dark side. And then, of course, growing up in Mass with Aerosmith, Dream On,
Of
coming out
course.
when you're a kid, it's like, you can't listen to that. They're on drugs,
Oh.
Parents didn't want you to listen to that. But we always found a way to find the evil music.
Wait, so what's the dark side of what you were just referring to?
Well, Aerosmith, did you ever see what they looked like back then? They were
Well,
hardcore
yeah, but
drug addicts.
what was the dark side of the Beatles?
The Beatles, I figured out at a very young age the whole Paul McCartney is dead thing, where they came up with all these clues that Paul McCartney was dead. And plus John Lennon coming out and saying that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus Christ. That was pretty dark when you grew up in a Catholic family in
Okay.
Massachusetts, But my parents never stopped me from listening to music. They encouraged it.
Yeah,
my mother was in the Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass, which ironically I ended up working for A&M Records. Herb Albert's the A and A&M.
Okay.
Fast forwarding.
Okay.
We didn't finish your fashion career,
Well, that's
though.
okay. That's okay.
We jumped to me.
It's all right. I love this part of it because music was a big piece of my life, too. I don't really know if my mom was all that into music, although she said she was. My dad was always listening to classical. And also, like, I made sure I played Buena Vista Social Club the other day on Saturday. Big fan of Spanish and that sort of influence. What's the dance that my dad loved to do? Not the tango, but the cha-cha. Maybe the cha-cha. He dated a woman for 35 years. It was his muse. And she was very cultural. Not that my father isn't, because he certainly is. But anyway, so my father used to walk me up and down Madison Avenue, Fifth Avenue.
Wow.
He would take me into all the fashion icons, Armani, Chanel. Oh, and I would look up at their logos and I would just like imagine my name in lights. Like I wanted to be a famous fashion designer. And I finally went out on my own at 27 here and opened up my own boutique with my own line of clothing after having worked for Sigrid Olsen, Calvin Klein, Emmanuel Ungaro. I did Richard Tyler out in LA. I mean, I've worked for a lot of some heavy hitters, I should say, and it was time for me to try it on my own. And I felt like if I was in Manhattan, I'd be a little fish in a big ocean, and if I was doing it in Boston, I'd be a big fish in a little ocean. And that was kind of my reason for picking Boston to launch it.
And every day when I walked down from Teal Square to Davis Square, I would walk by Cibeline, the boutique.
Well, yeah.
And I eventually walked in.
Yeah, and Steve and I became friends that way. We just started.
You designed dresses for the lead singer of one of my bands, The Charms, LEV. The two biggest shows the band ever played, she wore your dresses.
It was so
The
cool.
Underground Garage Festival in front of 20,000 people in New York, and when they were live on ESPN on New Year's Eve, opening for the New York Dolls.
I got to tell you, that was a dream for me. It was a dream come true because
I could see those dresses. One was kind of pink, and it
Yeah.
had and the other was sparkly. It had all this gold I remember the dresses. Isn't that amazing?
she again
She wore it well.
for
She wore
me,
them well.
she did absolutely, and she's a rock. She's such a rock chick extraordinaire. And for me, it was truly an honor. I mean, that you guys let me do that. I felt humbled because
We were honored to have the great Cibeline.
I really like my goal in life is to dress musicians, and I never knew that until kind of meeting you guys. And but it like made something come alive for me, like to see your designs on a musician on stage. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
If you
we
love
loved
that,
you.
you know.
I sent other people down there to your store as well because I thought your work was just phenomenal. You even dressed me a few times. I ended up getting a few things, but I'm wearing a button-down shirt today, which I usually don't
I like
wear
it.
button-down.
I like it.
I
It's
got
got
this in a
little
Goodwill
flowers on
store.
it.
Goodwill.
Yeah. Hey, I get things at Goodwill. Let me tell you. You can
Goodwill's
get some-
good.
I
I get
love the one right
frames.
here in Somerville.
Yeah,
right in Davis.
I do art too, and I go to Goodwill looking for frames to frame up my art and stuff.
Yeah.
We got a really good segue to wrap this thing up, but so
Well-
you went from Davis Square and you opened the store on Charles Street in Boston.
Right. So in 2008, an opportunity came my way. One of my clients was like, I want to get you on Charles Street. And she found me a space. It was incredible. I felt really, blessed to have that happen. And it took me to the big leagues, to be in Boston
Yeah,
on
that
Charles
store
Street.
was fabulous.
I had a global
man.
customer at that point. I mean, global. I had women coming in from Switzerland and Germany, and
It's a ritzy neighborhood.
I will tell this little fun story because this was my first weekend open, and in Davis Square, I'd have somebody come in and they'd see my $200 dress and they'd think about it and they'd dream about it and they'd come in and visit it, and it would take them about a month to make that purchase. Okay, so I had this woman come in. She was like a whirlwind. She was a commercial real estate agent. And she's like, oh my God, these things are amazing. Are these all your designs? Oh my God, blah, 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 blah. She's like trying things on. She's running in this room and that room. And she's like, I love this jacket. Oh my God, I love this jacket. Oh my God, this third jacket is gorgeous. And she has all of them in the fitting room. So I do the walk away. I'm like, okay, let me just, but she goes like, oh my God, I'm so broke. I can't, I'm so broke. And I'm like, oh, what do you do? Commercial real estate. Oh, I sell $1 million properties, this and that.
And she's broke.
She's broke. Right. So she tries on one jacket. She's like, oh, I have to have this. I love it. Now, mind you, all of this took about 10 minutes. 10 minutes. All of a sudden, I start to walk away. She goes, you know what? I'll just take all three.
Ooh.
At this point, my jackets were $488. She dropped $1,500
Wow.
in 10 minutes. I was like, all right, people. I have arrived. I am on Charles Street in Beacon Hill. And
You didn't miss Davis Square
Woo!
anymore.
Nope. Sorry, people. I crossed the river.
I'm just gonna like tell you. I'll give you my background really quickly.
Yes, please.
I've been in the music business my whole life. Okay, so that's it.
That's it.
I worked for labels. I managed bands. Blah blah blah. We'll talk about it more because I want to segue into a rock star who you
my
think is
fave.
really well dressed and styled, and I think is like one of the greatest guitar players in the world. That being
We both
Gary
agree.
Clark.
Mm-hmm. Gary
So
Clark
how did you-
Jr.
Gary Clark Jr. Sorry,
Mhm.
Gary Clark Jr. How did you get into Gary Clark Jr.?
So I went to the Exponential Music Festival, let's call it 5-6 years ago in New Jersey, Camden, New Jersey, with some of my besties. And we were going to see the Alabama Shakes and Beck. And out walks this cool mother.
That was the
you know
lineup?
what? Yes.
Alabama Shakes, Beck, and
Yes.
Gary Clark Jr.?
Gary Clark
What a
Jr.
lineup.
opened for
Wow.
Alabama Shakes, and Alabama Shakes opened for Beck. Now, I appreciate Beck. It didn't make sense to me based on
I don't
the
know
other
what-
two.
yeah,
Like
I
it
agree.
just was a weird transition. But he comes out and he just starts to go on that riff with his guitar, and man, it was sexy. It was nasty. It was just badass, you know? And I was in the middle of a conversation and I was like, oh my God, guys, I gotta go. And I just left my whole crew and I just razor focused on this guy. And he was just so incredibly prolific to me. I mean, this is a guy, to me, he's like one part Jimi Hendrix, one part Marvin Gaye, one part Prince, his falsetto, his like range of voice, but his style, all of it. Like, in order to be a band or a musician, you have to have all of those pieces. It's like from top to bottom, you got to live the part. And he, to me, in that moment, I was like, this guy is the best current musician out there.
You know, for people that don't know Gary Clark, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on him. He was actually playing in clubs in Austin where he grew up when he was 13 years old. Amazing. He started going to clubs. He used to sneak out of the house and his parents got hip to him and they supported him too, because I watched an interview with his parents and they knew he was something. And he got his big break when Doyle Bramhall II, who toured with Roger Waters and Eric Clapton, told him to expect an invite to the 2010 Crossroads Festival, which Eric Clapton put on, like he did 4 or 5 of them to raise money for his alcohol recovery place in Antigua. And he told him that Clapton was going to call him, and Clapton did call and invite him, and he went and played. And I had the same reaction when I was watching the Crossroads Festival, not live, but on TV or whatever, because it was broadcast somewhere. And I saw Gary Clark, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
You know, but I'm going to go so far to say now that along with Derek Trucks, I'd say that, you know, those are my 2 favorite younger guitar gods.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I love Jeff Beck and Brian May and Jimi Hendrix and all them. But if you go down to the current day, Gary Clark and Robert Randolph, too, I really like. Derek Trucks. I know you like Tedeschi Trucks.
I love Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi and the Tedeschi Trucks Band. I've seen them live. I saw the last concert I saw in 2019 was Tedeschi Trucks Band at the Orpheum. It was awesome.
It's funny because Doyle Bramhall II and Derek Trucks play together a lot. They both were in Clapton's band, and they play on each other's records. And Doyle is the one who's also from Austin, turned on Clapton to Gary Clark Jr. It's the connections.
And I mean, so I've seen him now at least 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
And my last time I saw him was at the House of Blues, and that was his
in Boston.
In Boston, absolutely, on Lansdowne, and that was This Land. Album.
This Land. Now that's a whole nother conversation because that's one heavy tune. But he wrote it about his race. The album is This Land. The song This Land is about his racist neighbor.
Yeah, racist neighbor. I mean, you feel it. You feel his pain. You feel his anger. I mean, it's a very angry song.
Oh yeah, it's
rightfully so. Let's just speak of the fact that he has every
He references Trump in the first actual line of the song, and about how racism escalated because he wrote it around 2016. And
so, but the album itself is really good. So if you guys haven't listened to it, you need to go out and get it and or download it, whatever. I mean, what was really impressive to me is that when I bought my tickets for the House of Blues show, and they weren't cheap. I mean, I think I spent, you know, I actually it wasn't too bad, but now his tickets go for like $250. Okay, like I was gonna try to see him. He opened up for the Rolling Stones.
Yes, that makes sense.
In 2019.
That makes a lot of sense. Keith probably loves him.
These last couple years. Who does?
Keith Richards probably loves him.
As they should.
Like Clapton does. Clapton says he has the best flow of any guitar player since Jimi Hendrix. He's quoted as saying
Absolutely. And just to kind of circle back to what you were saying, like to me, the top guitarists would be Gary Clark, followed by Derek Trucks, and gosh, they're probably one, you know, right there on number 1. And I'm a big fan of Luther Dickinson, too.
Of course you are.
Oh, he's sexy. I just wanted to also just say, I mean, I'm sure Gary Clark Jr. has a stylist, and has been working with a stylist, but he's married to a woman I think you
Nicole
appreciate very
Trefino.
much. Yeah,
Trefino, did I say it right?
I think so.
Beautiful model.
Gorgeous Italian model. But his sense of style, again.
They got 3 kids, too.
They have 3 beautiful children, very young. They're all under the age of 5 at this point. And he took home some serious Grammys. Grammys recently.
Yeah, he's big now. I mean, a couple years ago, most people didn't know who he was, but now that Cibeline Seriano knows him, everyone knows him.
Well, let's hope.
You're spreading the good word.
I want to spread any love I can.
So
shout
we're gonna do this every episode. We're gonna cover all of these beautiful things we covered: fashion, film, food, and music. How can you go wrong?
Right? The greatest loves in life, as far as I'm concerned.
Seems to me. SEAMS to me. Cibeline came up with that name.
Yeah.
I can't take credit for that.
Well, it was my blog that I did many moons ago, and I thought it was pretty clever. So I was like, let's keep this going.
So we even have an email now. So if you want to send us questions, comments, whatever.
Seems to me.
Seems to me. CSSR
at Gmail.
@gmail.
Okay, there we go. That's our.
I think we made it through our first show.
Holy cow! This is so much fun. I get to talk about my things
we get to
like.
talk. Period.
Oh man.
Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks for doing this. Let's keep doing this.
We're gonna keep doing it.
All right.